It begins as little more than a spring creek on the eastern flanks of Mount Hood, but by the time it reaches the tiny town of Maupin, Central Oregon's Deschutes River becomes as big and beautiful a stretch of steelhead water as any in North America, producing thousands of wild fish for anglers who come from all over the world to chase them. A man who knows this river and its fish as well as anyone alive is steelheader, speycaster, and year-round Maupin resident John Hazel. The proper use of a spey rod is an art unto itself for fly fishermen, and Hazel was part of a pioneering group of speycasters who saw early on the beauty and promise of this type of angling along the Deschutes and other Northwest rivers.
Back in about the early 1980s, we brought, when I say we, me and a couple of buddies, kind of took hold of the spey rods and thought this is going to be a spectacular tool for steelhead fishing out west. But nonetheless, people thought I was crazy. When we would spey cast on the Deschutes River, we'd have 10 or 15 cars parked up on the road, stopped, looking at us as we're fishing down a run. And it was like that for years. The real draw is the fact that steelhead are a fish of 1,000 casts. So one's going to become a pretty good caster if they're fishing for steelhead. Because truly, if you average it all out, you get one steelhead to hand about every 8 hours.
John isn't alone in his love of steelhead or the Deschutes. His wife Amy spends nearly as much time on the river as he does. And, like John, she's amazing with a spey rod.
I think the biggest misconception about spey casting is that it's difficult. I mean, it's not difficult, but that being said, I'd say hitting a golf ball is not difficult, but it's difficult for me, to do it perfectly every time.
Spey casting allows you to make perfect casts in every conceivable environment. No matter how tight you are to the bank, no matter how tall the grass is, no matter how hard the wind is blowing upstream or downstream, spey casting allows us to make perfect casts all the time in those kind of conditions.
Finally get your opportunity and you make it happen. For us, we carry a big loop of line and we let that loop go out. We maybe extend our arm and we don't lift up until we see our reel turning a little bit, and then we lift up and it's fish on. I mean, that's it. It's all about the grab for us. And steelhead aren't easy to catch, and if they were, there'd be a heck of a lot more people out steelhead fishing.
When I hold a steelhead for a guest that I've just landed one for him, I make him come down and look at it. And I want him to look in the eye of that fish. I want him to feel the scales below the dorsal fin. I want him to look at the transparent material that makes the tail and the spots. Every fish is special. Even the hatchery fish that supplement the wild runs in the Columbia Basin make the same journey. They fight the same peril. That's the most beautiful thing there is. whether you land the fish or not. It's all about seeing the beauty of that animal. Your heart's beating quick, your hands are shaking. You can hardly, sometimes guys say, John, I gotta sit down for a minute. I just have to sit down for a minute before I go back out and make my next cast. You know, I want them to make their next cast now because things are going on. But I realize, I've seen it before, you've got to sit down sometimes and just take it all in.
With this strange cargo, we were from the start.
When we're on the river together, we explore. We just always explore new water. Now that sounds a bit strange, but there's a lot of water that it would be impossible for our guests to fish. You've got to wade too deep, the casting's too tough, overhanging trees, whether it be for trout or steelhead, it doesn't matter. The kind of stuff that looks like it's impossible to fish is the kind of stuff that we go out and try to fish. It's the kind of stuff that nobody else ever wants to fish. You never see anybody fishing in there. And it's so cotton picking, dirty, rotten, nasty to get in and to work a fly around. The challenge for us is exactly that. You know, steelhead fishing appeals to a lot of different people for different reasons, and I think just the act of getting out and wading from knee deep to waist deep in the water is something that there's no reason you should be out there if you're not casting a steelhead fly. And you feel that water push against your legs, and each step you take down, you're getting closer to that ultimate prize. It's that initial grab.
No need to pull some weight around, but then I ain't gonna sing it like a clown and just wait around.
Steelhead are awesome. I mean, you hook into a steelhead and it's not like anything else you've ever hooked before. It's not gonna just go, you know, flop around and then come right on in. So when you get one in your hands, you're like, wow, this animal has made an incredible epic journey. And here it is, and I get to actually touch it and look in its eye and then let it go. I mean, steelhead fishing, it's not predictable and it's not easy, but it certainly is rewarding, and the reward is big.
Northwest weather is notoriously wet, and it sometimes takes a good rain to get steelhead moving upstream. Consequently, steelheading isn't always a sun-filled affair in Oregon. With the great days come the tough ones, meaning miserable conditions when even good casters might struggle. If you really want to see the Hazels at their best, stop by their fly shop for an evening guide meeting and see head guide Travis Johnson get abused for outfishing John and Amy.
Because you are the man.
Either one of you guys.
Now, I just wish I was a gynecologist or maybe a proctologist. I'd like to check what the condition of your asshole is. Because where I came from today, you pulled those babies out of your ass. Okay?
It's loose.
John and I are in the runs this morning, and I'm standing there thinking,
Were you first boat on?
yeah. And I'm first two boats, huh? And I'm standing there thinking, I had a guy in here last week who'd never held a fly rod in his life, and he got 9, and we can't get one. It's crazy. We couldn't buy a fish.
Even after a bad day on the water, a new morning of steelheading feels like a fresh pull on the slot machine, like something really good might happen.
Good steelhead fishing, it can be defined, in my opinion, simply as fishing great water well. That's all you can expect from the sport, is to fish beautiful water well and thoroughly. If there's steelhead in there, if they're happy, they're gonna eat. If they're not, you're gonna go to the next piece of beautiful water and fish it well. And then the next piece, I mean, that's a steelheader. The water seduces you.
I
For saltwater flats fishermen, nothing is more enticing than the sight of tailing fish. We spend countless hours scanning the horizon, looking for fins or flashes or a push of nervous water, anything that says the fish are here. Sooner or later they do appear, and if those tails turn out to be permit, and if you can get one of them to eat, then there's no greater feeling on a fly rod. Permit have a strange effect on most anglers, causing those who are usually calm, cool, and collected to pretty much fall apart when a shot presents itself. Brian O'Keefe has done his share of saltwater flats fishing, so for him to be in Belize is not unusual, but it had been a while since he'd last been out to Turner Flats. In fact, the last time he was here, Belize was still a relatively undeveloped country known as British Honduras.
When we first started coming to Turner Flats, this was a bonefish destination. We brought 7 and 8 weight rods, occasionally saw a big permit tail on the flats. That was an added bonus, or maybe some rolling tarpon. But now, Turner Flats, with these guides that have been here for over 2 decades, they've discovered permit on the backcountry, permit up north and south. There's still a lot of bones. We see hundreds a day. But I think the emphasis on coming to Turner Flats is the permit fishing, maybe the best in the world. And then, of course, there's bonefish and tarpon in the channels. When you're on the bow of a boat or wading a flat, you're looking for fish. There's no blind casting. There's really no luck involved. You have to find the fish, approach it, cast to it. You have the right retrieve at the right depth, the right fly, a lot of factors. When it does happen and you have a tight line, you do a nice set, it's battle royale. You've hooked a permit, a super powerful fish. It's a long, steady, hard fight. And I try not to put too much pressure on the fish. I want him to kind of fight it smooth and easy. A lot can go wrong, but when it goes right, there's really no greater accomplishment in fly fishing.
In Brian's 30-year career as an angler and photographer, he has fished everywhere from Sierra Leone, Africa, to the most remote parts of Alaska, Baja, or the Bahamas. A common theme with Brian's fishing trips has been the exploration of new waters. So when he heard about some great permit flats in the far southern part of Belize, he was soon on a plane heading toward the border with Guatemala and Honduras. The sleepy little town of Punta Gorda, Belize, sits on the shores of the Gulf of Honduras and is home to an ambitious band of brothers named the Garbutts, fishermen who have helped put PG on the map. Ewart, Oliver, and Scully, all saltwater fly fishing guides focusing on what else? Permit. As anyone who has ever chased after this elusive species knows, you need to be patient and put in your time to catch them. This often means lots more standing and looking than fishing and catching. Any veteran permit angler also knows that the key to finding permit in the first place rests primarily with your guide. Scully is the youngest of the Garbutt brothers, quiet, polite, and professional. He has a great set of eyes for spotting fish, which is exactly what you need in Punta Gorda. But when he sees one, you'd better be ready to make that cast, because he expects you to put it on the money. Though Punta Gorda is primarily a permit fishing destination, if the tides and temperature and time of year are right, you can occasionally find tarpon. And if your name is Brian O'Keefe, you catch one. Throwing a 10 weight for tarpon isn't a bad way to spend some downtime when the permit get picky. The nice thing about southern Belize is that when you find them, they usually eat. Oliver Garbutt is cool and confident like his brother Scully, only bigger and with a little more bling. Like any guide, Oliver appreciates it when he gets a good caster like Brian on the front of his boat.
When you got a guy like Brian on the deck there, man, it's just make your day much easier. That can cast that line out there like that. Most people that come for permit fishing, especially like how it's saltwater fishing, it's a tough fishery, you know, and people that want to come and do permit fishing, I think they should try to take a little fly fishing lesson before they come down.
Permit fishing isn't for everybody, but I think after you've sort of graduated up in saltwater fly fishing, permit get a hold of you, kind of capture your interest. And it's the Garbutt brothers who will take that to the next level. And to a degree, I think you better have your A game going on fishing with them because they're working hard. And they kind of expect the angler to be working just as hard as they are.
A little longer. You're going two left, though. Two left. Put it in the fish, right.
And then there's the third brother, Ewart Garbutt.
Right into this. See the tail? I'll put you right on it. It's only about 80 feet moving left.
Only 80 feet.
If you pick them up, you're good, man. You see that whole dark right there? You got it? That's good. Strip in now. Yeah, strip in, strip in. Wait, stop, leave it. Good, man, fish on.
Permit are, a little bit unique looking. They've got kind of a blunt nose and that big forked tail and big fins. I think they're really cool looking. They make a great, picture on a t-shirt or a logo. When you get them closer in your hands, they've got a beautiful shine. Lots of little pearlescent colors come out. I think they're very, very handsome fish. And that big eye, you look at it's almost a human-sized eye or bigger. And that's the thing that looks at my fly and goes, nope, not today.
Many of those permit Brian were casting to are swimming free in these waters because of people like Dennis Garbutt, the fourth Garbutt brother. Though not a fishing guide, Dennis has worked for almost a decade to protect the very waters his brothers guide on. He was instrumental in the formation and enforcement of laws aimed at protecting what is now the Port Honduras Preserve. And one of the keys was the banning of commercial gill nets, an ironic twist for a family of former commercial fishermen. In the 8 years since the program began, it has had a significant impact on the fishery and on his brothers.
Got a lot of my advice from my younger brother. Even though I was on the other side doing the conservation work, and they were there, they're doing conservation in their own way. I really and truly feel comfortable and I would say confident that this marine reserve because of the hard work that we're doing and because of the commitment that we have to this area, is going to continue to see good permit fishing, is going to continue to see good lobster production, is going to continue to see people benefit economically from not extracting every single thing from the resource. You know, from just extracting stuff in a sustainable way.
Dennis really look out for us. He want to hear my opinion, Oliver, Ewart. And what I like about our family, we always find time to spend together. I would say thank goodness he's around. He's the one that actually get us much closer.
We're the closest a family could ever get. And if Scully catch a permit, I catch a permit. The victory is just sweet. I would like to see his rod go tight as much as I would like to see mine.
It's so special that you can't really describe the feeling. I mean, my brother is my best friend, my everything to me.
In 2008, thanks to the hard work of the Garbutts, Craig Hayes at Turner Flats, and many others within the fly fishing community of Belize, it was announced by the Belizean legislature that bonefish, tarpon, and permit have received full protection from the Belizean government, and that all three species must now be released unharmed. Catch and release is now, finally, mandatory throughout the waters of Belize. Every winter in the Rocky Mountains, when many lakes and rivers are buried beneath the snow and thoughts turn to tying flies or drinking alcohol, anglers often find sanctuary in the tailwaters of the West. Those sections of rivers that flow from beneath a dam, producing near constant 50-degree water temperatures and enough oxygen to sustain thousands of happy, healthy trout. Though hundreds of tailwaters exist throughout the country, few are more revered and respected than Utah's legendary Green. Emerging from the bottom of Flaming Gorge Reservoir, the Green weaves its way past red rocks and green trees toward its junction with the Colorado, providing miles of blue ribbon trout water along the way. There is a great hypocrisy with tailwaters, because none of us would want another dam built on a free-flowing section of river. But since the dams that already exist provide incredible year-round opportunities, often with the dry fly, well then, we might as well go ahead and fish them. Tailwaters are the sacrificial lambs of fly fishing. They're not a secret to anyone, so they are sometimes crowded. But with 5,000 to 10,000 fish per mile, they can usually handle the pressure. And because the fishing is good, these rivers receive a constant stream of friends sharing them with friends, or fathers sharing them with sons or daughters, like Utah resident Adam Barker's father did with him. Just 5 hours east of the Green, winter anglers will find another classic western tailwater, Colorado's famous Frying Pan River, where local R.A. Beati found some hungry fish on a snowy December morning, despite the temperature being 6 degrees below zero.
Sure, winter fishing is really cold and it's brutal at times. You lose feeling in your toes and your hands, and the line and the guides continually freeze. But more often than not, you're the only one on the river. You have the entire river to yourself. I grew up in a pretty serious ski family and was really expected to be a great skier, but fishing always allowed some sort of escape from that expectation. I just found peace and quiet in fishing. It wasn't competitive, no one was watching or critiquing my style, and on the river I could be totally free.
R.A. has called the Frying Pan and the Roaring Fork home since he first held a fly rod, so he should know better than to fish with bare hands in December. But his fishing buddy Boone doesn't see a problem with it.
Well, the grips were strong and the circle had sealed on me. Thought I was down, thought that I had found someone to follow, someone to be. Thought I figured out what it's all about. Oh, the fiddly flop, I was faded and I fed to the prime. Looked at my face, well, it wasn't mine. Oh, thinking I was right, that maybe I should get away. But I think twice, then I stay.
I've spent so much time on the Frying Pan, yet I always have a great deal of respect for this little river. They say that familiarity breeds contempt, which can be the case for some waters, but the Frying Pan has so much character and can be such a fickle little river that at times it feels almost like the fish in the water have their own personality. That's really what keeps me coming back.
Well, I woke up this morning, a rainbow filled the sky. Yes, I woke up this morning, a rainbow filled the sky.
If there's any tailwater that can give the Green and the Frying Pan a run for their money, it's Montana's mighty bighorn. Catch it on a late winter morning like guides Robert Eddins, Jordan Gage, and Robert Boyce did, and you'll understand why. The bighorn runs for over 100 miles, but the prime stretch is below Yellowtail Dam, from the big metropolis of Fort Smith to the town of Hardin, where slow flows and lots of bugs give it an almost Spring Creek-like feel. The popularity of the bighorn means it's often crowded in spring and summer, but the temperature and clarity of the water makes this a true year-round fishery, meaning those in the know find that winter is one of the best times to be here.
The bighorn in the wintertime is kind of my deal. I used to spend Christmases over there. No people, good streamer fishing. Fishing with Boyce and Eddins is always fun because it's more laid back and more of a hunt for a big fish. You kind of try to fish in the holes that don't get hit all the time or those little sloughs. Variety is a big part of fishing, I think. You know, it's, catching fish is sweet and all, but seeing cool country is definitely a big chunk of the pie.
Yeah, we've been fishing together, all of us, for over a decade. We've grown up together in the sport, and it's very easy to go fishing with your buddies like that. It's you already know where they want to be, where they want to fish, how they like to fish, what needs to be said and what doesn't need to be said. It's a great little getaway.
I'm gonna pack my own guitar now, move on down the road. Where you gonna go? Oh, where I go, I don't know, but I guess I just got to go. Well, I woke up this morning, a rainbow filled the sky. Well, I woke up this morning, a rainbow filled the sky. That was God telling me everything is gonna be alright.
Sometimes I take you by my side. I love you leave me, I wouldn't even cry.
There are thousands of bonefish guides working on flats throughout the tropics and in all reaches of the Caribbean. But none of them bring the history, knowledge, and overall influence of Andros Island's Charlie Smith. The man has become synonymous with the birth of bonefishing in the Bahamas, where he guided his first clients over 50 years ago. As the original inspiration and co-creator of the Crazy Charlie bonefish fly, Charlie is a true icon in the sport: guide, instructor, historian, musician, and comedian. Charlie's love of bonefishing has been shared with thousands of visiting anglers over the years, a tradition that he continues today on the famous west coast of Andros and throughout the waters of the island's North Bight.
On the ocean blue.
Bonefish are one of the most prized species in all of fly fishing, and if the Bahamas are the holy waters of the sport, then Charlie Smith has become the high priest.
Sail my ship along with all the dreams I own. Darling, I'm out there dreaming but you.
Charlie's stories form the very history of bonefishing on Andros and throughout the Bahamas. He has spent countless days and weeks on these waters, not just fishing, but teaching others how to fish. And even today, in his mid-70s, he loves it as much as he did 50 years ago, when he first started the original Charlie's Haven fishing camp.
In 1962, I fished Lord Toby Nelson from Ireland, and he says to me, he says, "You want to learn how to fly fish?" So I said to him, I said, I can fly fish. He said, "Well, here's the rod." So the first cast I make, I went out with 20 feet. And he said, "You're going to be great someday." And I was into it from then. I didn't bother to use bait, hardly. I went to making my own lure from the lead and the hook. One just went from like a spinning jolly to a bonefish fly. And I was into it from 1968 to now. And I love it.
Now, of course, there are bone fishing lodges spread all over the Caribbean, but Charlie has returned to someplace special, the legendary Bang Bang Club.
I bonefish here from Charlie's Haven, and I saw this place, and I said, "Boy, what a magnificent place. Someday I wish I could have that." And my dream came true. Every night and every day.
Located on a remote 200-acre island called Pot Cay, the Bang Bang is ideally situated between the east and west coasts, sitting alone at the very bottom of the North Bight. Since the lodge first opened in the 50s, it has hosted anglers from all over the world, including tycoons and royalty, athletes and movie stars. Fishing legends such as Joe Brooks and Lee Wolf once frequented the club, until the operation fell into a state of neglect and disrepair in the early 70s. For many years, this once proud bonefish club sat in ruins, until Charlie and his family resurrected the operation in 2005. Today, the lodge is open and once again hosting anglers. While the Bang Bang may not be for everyone, it is ideal for those seeking solitude and fast access to some of the best bone fishing found anywhere in the Bahamas. Captain Keith Parr moved to Andros 17 years ago to work as a civilian boat driver for the Navy. He decided to stay and fish the area flats on an almost daily basis. Though no rookie, he greatly enjoys the days he spends with Charlie.
It's an honor. I don't care if we ever even see a fish, which that's never the case. Like, put the chills down your spine to step on board with them, and you never want the day to end.
Just as fast as you
Another veteran of fishing the Bahamas is saltwater addict Ian Davis, who also treasured his time spent with Bonefish Charlie.
Fishing on the boat with Charlie is monumental for me, solely because he's done a lot for fly fishing in general, with his innovative flies to his happy-go-lucky attitude and enjoyment of the sport. And the more fun you have, I really believe the more fish you catch, and that's his same attitude.
When I pull the flat for 10 minutes and I don't get a fish on the fly, I can feel the pressure building up a little bit, and then I whistle. And it's all gone. I either whistle a blues, a calypso, or I talk to the fish. We go bone fishing, and we walk the flat. And she says to me, boy, you know I gotta come back. Bonefish biting. I ain't got no bait to catch one. Every married man have their own bonefish.
The songs Charlie sings aren't just restricted to his boat. He can often be found playing his banjo throughout Pot K and the Bang Bang Club.
Every night and every day, darling, since you went away, I keep dreaming and thinking that you were mine. Say the wind don't blow every day, you must know, darling, I love you one more time. I get on the dock, I grab my fly rod, and I think I have you in my arms. Each night and day I'm out here looking your way. Darling, just love me one more time. Okay, old boy.
If you are ever lucky enough to visit the Bang Bang Club, you can be sure of three things. Charlie will almost always be singing, he'll always be chasing the huge bonefish he likes to call Big Mama, and every afternoon he'll be casting at the end of the dock, contemplating the day, enjoying the sunset, and thinking of the fish that tomorrow will bring.
That's what I've been doing out here on the dock, practicing how to get perfect to teach my client how to do the right thing when I get them in the boat. Because I love being with people, and I love catering to tourists, and I love fishing. So that keeps me smiling.
It's people like Charlie who are the true ambassadors of the sport, as are the bonefish who call the waters of the North Bight home. You ever get that feeling that you might be somewhere you just don't belong? You might if you were two American fishing guides who just arrived in Kashmir, India, from Idaho. John Steele and Travis Smith traveled all the way to India from Island Park, Idaho, at the invitation of Kashmiri travel guide Maksud Madari. If you're wondering why two guys would leave the trout-filled waters of one of America's most classic dry fly streams for the potentially dangerous and utterly unproven waters of a Himalayan conflict zone, well, John and Travis are probably asking themselves that same thing. They're here to fish for browns and rainbows, and whatever else they can find. Maqsood's grandfather started fishing the Kashmir region in the 1940s and 50s, before it became an established tourist destination. He eventually began guiding the occasional European anglers who came to fish primarily for introduced brown trout in the area's rivers and lakes. Now, Maqsood is also a guide, and he still operates his business from the same houseboat that his grandfather used on Lake Nagin. Srinagar is a city of nearly 2 million people that sits on the shores of a chain of lakes. In the 1970s and 80s, this area was a haven for thousands of tourists. But today, because of the latest territorial conflict over Kashmir between Pakistan and India, there's hardly a tourist in sight and even fewer fly fishermen. After 36 hours of chaotic travel, the comfort of a shakriya on Dal Lake seems the perfect way for Travis and John to take in their new surroundings and slowly adjust to life in Kashmir. By morning, the peace and tranquility of Dal Lake is a distant memory. After a year of planning, Dawn in India reminds the boys that they are here to fish. Trout and fly fishing aren't native to India. When the British were colonizing this part of the world, they brought their sports and fish and affection for tea with them. They also brought their peculiar way of taking something fairly simple, like fly fishing, and overthinking it. This meant that rivers in India inherited the beat system, where certain sections of a river are designated for 2 anglers at a time and reserved, like a table at a fine restaurant. The rivers are yours for the day, but only after you've had your tea and bread and you've undergone a detailed inspection of your flies and equipment by the river warden. Judging from the crowds, fly fishing is apparently a rare sight around here. Here's John and Travis to tell the story in their own words.
I think we're a pretty unique experience for a lot of these local people. I don't think they've seen this happen too much before. The first river we fished at Verinag, I believe it was called, it was actually a slow river that was fairly clear. There were people lining the banks while we were fishing, which generally trout don't appreciate that. Maybe the trout here are just like the people. The personal space that they need is probably not as large as, say, an American trout. Travis had a great comment and said that it felt like, Tiger Woods coming up to the 18th on the Masters. And another fact that was outstanding was that there were net caddies here. These were the guys that did all the netting. They weren't exactly guides because they weren't imparting any instruction, really. They were just there to feel official with the net. Well, the first fish that we landed, when we turned around to release it, there was an uproar. I mean, clearly these people hadn't seen this type of activity going on before. You've got, all this gear, you've traveled all the way to go over here, you're going to fish. Of course, the ultimate goal is to keep the fish, and when they released that fish the first time, these people were shocked. I think they were more blown away by that than the fact that 2 Americans in funny-looking outfits were actually in the water fly fishing. And then we proceeded to move down, below the ladies washing their clothes, and really realized that the town beat was also the town kind of water source and sewer and laundry and bathroom all rolled into one. The real thing that was just wild was that this is such an important, part of the town that everybody uses it, and to actually realize that it doubled as a fishing beat was at least in my mind and in my experience, kind of bizarre. On the way out of town, Maksud thought it was time for a cultural exchange and got us in on a cricket match. Travis stepped up like he was Babe Ruth, connected a couple times, and really was a hit with the ladies. Maksud and I, not so well. You know, we pretty much got sat down fairly quickly. And after a couple shots, we thought it was time to head out of town before any of these elders thought we were disgracing the cricket field and decided to give us the boot.
The mountains in Kashmir are so beautiful. They're absolutely gorgeous, so rugged and steep. It's really amazing in a country of 1.7 billion people that they have that many natural resources left as far as woodlands and beautiful rivers. The rivers are gorgeous. They're extremely fast flowing, most of them, because the grade coming out of the Himalayas is so fast, and a lot of them are glacial. It's amazing that it's all the same. The fly fishing is the same no matter where you go in the world. It's same types of insects, same trout if there are trout in there, and you can catch them the same way. And it's pretty awesome to be able to go anywhere and feel that way on the water.
When you're on the water, you could be in any trout stream in the Rockies. But the minute you got out of the river and started moving around the banks, it was everywhere there were signs that you were not at home anymore.
The beat system was interesting because I've never fished anywhere where you actually had to write your name down, the beat you're on, how many fish you caught, and you were only allowed to keep 6 fish, I believe, per beat. And so since John and I were releasing all of our fish, we'd come back and say, we caught 25. And they'd say, no, you're only allowed to catch 6. And so our scorecards were a little off, but it was pretty cool. Hopefully that keeps the rivers as pristine as they are right now and preserves them for the future so my kids can go there someday.
The R-ball was, by far, at least in what we experienced, the best fishing. Something that you'd really want to travel halfway around the world to do. The fish there were incredibly powerful. And you can tell they're just all very fat fish. And this was one of the few rivers when you looked around and started turning over rocks, you saw good aquatic insects. And there were hatches there. We saw some stoneflies flying around. There was some sort of drake that was hatching. Here, the fish were much larger and much healthier than anything we had seen throughout the area. So there were lots of smiles and congratulations as we did our final paperwork for the day. This was really great being with Travis for this time, because I've known Travis for a long time, and to have the opportunity to travel to a place like this was really special. We work together, we see each other a lot, but we're both pretty busy, and to be on a trip like this with him was great because it was fun to watch him fish, it was fun to listen to him laugh, it was fun to see him integrate with the local community, and I think he was probably the favorite of most of the guys here. It's not too difficult to make friends in Kashmir. Everywhere we went, people were inviting us in, whether it was into their tent for some rice and some smoke, or whether it was up along the trail, they were going out of their way to get involved with what was going on, and seemingly had a lot of fun doing it. The night by the campfire was fantastic. We had a great time. Ravi shared with me his gypsy dancing. I got into a breakdance fight with him. Everybody thought that was pretty humorous. Not fueled by any means by the copious amounts of marijuana that were growing rampant in that area, but rather the excitement of hanging out with these guys and meeting all of these new people who were so incredibly friendly and generous about the landscapes that we saw, the rivers that we were fishing, the great adventure that Maqsood took us on. And Maqsood gave us a look at Kashmir that was something I don't think too many people would get the opportunity to see. We went all over the country, from the cities to the villages, into the mountains. I guess ultimately we need to thank Maqsood's grandfather for being the man who introduced Maqsood to fishing and planted those seeds and got him going along a path that would ultimately lead him to us and to being our guide and to giving us just a great Kashmiri adventure.
Carry me to my home in the ocean, carry me away. I know I have a home somewhere far and removed, like the stars that make you feel like you got friends. Stars will make you feel like you got friends.
All it takes is one river, one tropical flat, or one memorable fish to understand why someone would spend a frozen day in December fly fishing. It doesn't matter whether you choose to fish alone, or with your dog, or whether you spend the day casting from a drift boat with a couple of friends. Fly fishing is about making connections to the fish, to the water, and to other anglers along the way. Making this movie reminded us of just how far that fly fishing bond stretches. From a morning boat ride in the Bahamas to an exotic horseback ride in Kashmir, where even an ongoing conflict could almost be forgotten just by standing in a river. Looking ahead to our next film, we are encouraged and reassured not only by how much joy is found in fishing good water, but by the great lengths people will go to protect it.
And that this river will forever run.
Sometimes I take you by my side, and if you leave me, I wouldn't even cry. I don't know why I said you would never. On the ocean blue, when the ship starts sinking, I'll blame you. Sail my ship along with all the dreams I own. Darling, I'm out here dreaming but you. So I'll sail my ship along, darling, all the dreams I own. Out here on the ocean blue, give my message to the wind, darling, to take back home to you. When the ship starts sinking, I'll be every night and every day. Darling, since you went away, I keep dreaming and thinking that you were mine. Say the wind don't blow every day, you must know. Darling, I love you one more time. I get on the dock, I grab my flyer, and I think I have you in my arms. Each night and day I'm out here looking your way. Darling, just love me one more time. Okay, old boy. I'll see you down the street.